In this video, I'm going to show you how to connect your instruments to the RC-505. Mark 1 and 2. I will go through a basic setup for beginners and a more advanced setup for those who want to take their looping to the next level. And then I will explain how to connect your loop station to a speaker or PA system. And stick around to the end because I will be giving you 3 life-saving hacks. And by life-saving, I mean when you're at a gig and your speakers don't work, or there is a loud earth hum that's so loud and annoying that it bothers the people in the audience. I'll explain to you what gear I look for to make sure that I have redundancies in place when these issues arise. So let's get into it. Okay, the basic connections for looping if you're just starting out is usually a microphone and an instrument. If you don't know what microphone to get, I highly recommend the Shure SM58. It's a good all-rounder. This one I've had for over 30 years and it's still running. Great mic. You need a microphone lead. One goes into your microphone and the other one obviously goes into the input on your RC-505 Mark 1. If you have the Mark 2, then you've got 2 inputs, so you can plug in 2 microphones. Next up, you're going to want to plug in your instrument. Now this will be either a keyboard or a guitar more than likely, though there are others. In my case, I'm a keyboard player. Plug that into the instrument input. You can run this in mono or stereo. Mono is fine for most applications. Some people like to use stereo because on their keyboard or their guitar effects, they might have all these different left and right panning effects. Or they might have instruments that pan left or right. But usually for most applications, instrument into the left brackets mono. And that should take care of your inputs. And you need an output because that needs to go to a speaker. Now the RC-505 only has an instrument jack output, which is a TS cable. And again, plug it into the L mono. If you're gonna run stereo outputs or 2 speakers and you wanna run a left and right speaker on either side, in that case then you'd probably want 2. But for most small gigs, you will find 1 speaker is more than enough. What I tend to do is put it behind me and on a 45-degree angle. If it's not too loud, that will do just fine. If you need a lot of volume, you might find that when you put the microphone in front, you're gonna start getting that feedback. But if you put it on the side a bit like that, you'd find you should be able to get a decent amount of volume coming out through your microphone, and you can use it as a monitor and slash to the audience. So great for smaller venues, more intimate background music. Saves you having to carry around a lot of gear as well. And that would cover a really basic setup. Now, if you're like me and you've been evolving your looping setup and you have a few more things happening, let me go through an advanced setup and how I have it all plugged in. Now, one thing I've done is to speed up my connection process, because it used to take me an hour, is I can set up everything in about 15 minutes. And I've created these multi-cores where I have everything I need all hooked together. A little Velcro strap to hold this in place. And here I have all my connections. I have my power. I have these 2 stereo outputs. They go to my mixer. Then I have my piano, which is connected to my RC-505. And here's my piano connections. Stereo out from my keyboard into my loop station. I also have a controller cable, which is on my expression pedal, which I will show you. So that if my hands are busy, I can press my pedal board to stop and start. And lastly, I have a cable for my microphone. I use a Shure Beta 58. It's got a crisper, clean sound than the Shure 58. Costs about double, but the 58 will do the job just fine. My microphone does not go directly into my loop station. It goes into a TC Helicon Perform VE vocal effects unit. So rather than going directly to my RC-505, my microphone runs into this vocal effects unit. And I have this switchboard here which I can activate. I have 3 different settings depending on what I want to do with my vocals at that time. Then from here, I go into my DI, and the only reason I have a DI is that the signal out of this comes quite hot, really loud, and the volume control on my RC-505 is very minimal. It's very hard to be too precise. So I run it through this where I can run a pad through it, and the pad lowers the volume so that the volume coming into here is a bit lower. Rather than having to switch between minimal and a quarter and play with that, I actually can crank it all the way up to 2/3 and play around with that. The other benefit the Perform VE vocal effects unit has is that I can harmonize up to 8 voices at once. Blackbird singing in the dead of night, blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these sunken eyes and learn to see. And the way I do that is I run a MIDI out from my keyboard, and that MIDI out cable goes into here.
That vocal harmonizer is great for recording choruses really fast in one go.
So instead of having to record a 3-part harmony 3 times, I just record all 3 harmonies in one go. Really quick for fast looping. The other thing that isn't connected is my drum machine. And for that I have another multi-core with a bunch of cables all joined together ready to go. And one thing I need is the MIDI out. So I've got the MIDI out from my loop station, MIDI into my Groovebox / drum machine. I also have the power in the same cable just to speed things up. And I have my outputs for my drum machine. I don't actually run the audio from my drum machine into the loop station. I run that into a mixer. And the reason I do that is I don't want my drums to record when I'm creating loops. So this gives me an extra channel to play with where all my drums are separate to my loop station. But when I turn my loop station on, I activate these drums and I can turn the volumes on and off as I want to. Drums, hi-hats, kicks, snares, and it gives me a lot more versatility. If you're interested in how that works, have a look at this video which explains how I use the drum machine. That means that whenever I press stop and start now, this drum machine should turn off and on command from my loop station. I've got all my equipment set up now. I've got my loop station, my piano, my microphone and my drum station all hooked up. Now let's hook it up to the sound system. And because this is a bit more of a complex system, I actually use a sound mixer where I run everything into it. Now back to my trusty foot pedal board. I have this mixer set up here to reduce setup and pack up time. I've got my drum machine connected in left and right, and I have my loop station connected in left and right. And I have my master volume and controls for each. And outputs this. I've just got one cable at the moment, but normally I run stereo, left and right, microphone cable that plugs in to the back of my speaker. Good to go. So that covers your 2 ways to connect your loop station setup to your speaker or PA. You can either go directly out of the loop station into your speaker, or you can go from your loop station to a sound mixer and then from there run that to your speaker. Now I did say if you stuck around to the end, I was going to give you 3 life-saving hacks. And I do mean these are life-saving as they've gotten me out of trouble countless amount of times. And if you're running a small PA, it's important that you know these. Now if you're looking to do paid gigs, there's a certain expectation that you arrive at the gig and perform. We don't want to hear excuses, oh my PA didn't work, something's gone wrong. They expect results. Now here are 3 redundancies that I think are crucial to have. Number 1, make sure you get yourself a mixer. A sound mixer is ideal to have for a few reasons. 1, let's say someone wants to do a duet with you and join in. Let's say there's an MC that wants to do some announcements. It's good to have the option of just plugging them into there, adjusting their volume. They might want to also play some music on an iPad. You've got the easy control there of plugging in 2, 3 or more instruments. The other thing is, equipment can malfunction from time to time. Let's say something happens to your loop station. I have in the past, I got to a gig, I was unpacking my loop station and I dropped it. Thankfully, it was just one of the faders, fell off, and it was hard to do the gig, but I was able to finish the gig. But let's just say, in that situation, my loop station didn't work. You have 2 options. You cannot do the gig at all, or maybe you can still let the venue manager know, hey look, sorry, one of my equipment broke. I can still do some music if you like, just me playing some acoustic singing or piano and singing. It's not an ideal scenario, but at least you have an option of being able to still perform and still get some sound and still get some music out through your speaker system. So that's a great reason to have a sound mixer. Number 2, get a mixer with more channels than you need. If you normally use 2 channels, get a mixer with at least 4, 6 or 8. And it just happened last week. I got to the gig, I plugged in my instruments where I normally do, and my drum machine wasn't sounding. I replaced the cables from the drum machine to the mixer, still wasn't sounding. I moved the connections from the mixer from here where they were set to here, and the sound was working. So I realized something had happened with channels number 5 and 6. They were no longer working. Luckily I had a mixer with spare channels and I was able to work that. The other problem I had was not only was channels 5 and 6 not working, but my right output was not working. So I had 2 speakers, but only my left side speaker was working, my right side was not working. Again, I tried changing the cables from the mixer to my speaker. I tried swapping around the left and right to see which one wasn't working, and I determined definitely the right channel wasn't working. So, important to get a mixer that's got more channels than you need. And ideally, this particular mixer has 2 different types of outputs. It has XLR outputs, and it also has jack outputs. And also when I buy speakers, I'll make sure, 1, that my speakers have 2 channels, And they also have a through. That's an output. That means that I can run my mixer into there, and I can also run an out from there, and that can go to my other speaker. So if I don't have two outputs to send to there, I can run the sound signal from my music into there and out to my next speaker. If I happen to be doing an acoustic gig with just me and the piano, and my mixer stops working, I can always plug in my piano and my microphone into there, and the gig is saved. So it's a great redundancy to get a speaker with two channels and a through output. Lifesaver. My third and final tip, and this happened to me last week as well at another gig. As soon as I turned my speaker on, I heard this horrific earth hum. Okay, I've got this horrible earth on my sound system. You can hear that, horrible earth. It's so loud that it was annoying, overpowered my music, a distraction for the audience, and really not good to be presenting that as part of your performance. People in the audience and the management don't know about noises and what's going on. They just want to hear good music. So how do you fix that? This little unit here is a Behringer hum destroyer. There might be other products with a similar function, but essentially go to your music store, get yourself a hum destroyer. This one's passive. It means it doesn't require any batteries. All it does is got two inputs and two outputs. So you got your inputs from your loop station or your mixer if you're using one, and then you just output those to your speaker. And what do you know? It actually fixed the earth hum. It's worth getting this, guys. Any guys that do solo gigs, it can be a lifesaver. I keep it in my gig bag always. I've only had to use it twice, but twice it saved my life. And I'd like to let you know about my sponsor, you. Yes, you. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hitting that like button is another way you can support me, and it's free. Found this video useful? Have a look at this one. If you found this video helpful and want to learn more about live looping, PA setup, working as a professional musician, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification, as I regularly post tutorials and tips as well as live performances. Let me know in the comments section if you have any questions or any videos you'd like me to do next. Keep making music, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.